Here we go. All right. Good evening, sports fans. Mark Pinto from Phoenixville Public Library with you folks tonight. There might be snow blanketing the ground here and in many areas of the country right now, but tonight we're here to talk about that sure harbinger of spring known as Major League Baseball. And leading our discussion tonight are two students of the game from right here in Phoenixville. Julian McCracken is a former general manager of the Reading Phillies and member of the Reading Baseball Hall of Fame. And Lou Beccaria has played semi-pro baseball in Philadelphia, coached youth baseball, and writes about baseball. And ladies and gentlemen, feel free to unmute yourselves at any time tonight to join in the conversation. So, gentlemen, let's play ball. Take it away.
We're going to start, everybody. We're going to start off with well, we designed this to be in two halves. One to talk about the Negro League Baseball and the inclusion into Major League Baseball statistics. And then the second half will be if you were the general manager of the Phillies and what would you do with the limited budget? So starting off with the Negro League, I'd like to hear people's comments about the fact that, now they're going to count the statistics for those who played in the Negro Leagues from 1920 to 1948. And what do you think, that's a long time overdue, or what your feeling is about that?
I feel it's a good move. I think everybody's question or concern is how are they going to do it? And I know they have a committee that's studying it. There's a group that put together a website that features the Negro League statistics called seamheads.com. It's an interesting website to go to. I know Baseball Reference is the one that a lot of us go to for our regular American League and National League statistics, but these folks who put together this site called Seamheads, and it's just like it sounds, seam and heads.com, really has done a good job of putting together the statistics for the Negro League players. And
one
of
the articles that I read, like actually you provided it, Julian, was that the toughest part about this, the integrating of statistics. One, would they be able to integrate them? And those statistics in baseball that deal with percentages and rates would be more difficult than those such as adding up home runs or adding up RBIs and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. The most games that any of these leagues ever played in a season was 100,
right,
or thereabouts. So, like you said, the cumulative statistics in a year are not exactly going to rank up there, but certainly the things like the batting average will be one that's going to be interesting to look at in those articles that Lou and I are referring to. They talk about a couple of years that would really rewrite the record books as far as some of the Negro League players and their career batting average, not only yearly batting averages, but their career averages would bump certain Hall of Famers that we all obviously admire, would bump them out of the top 10. So,
for instance, I mean, did any of those players have like 65 home runs in a season?
No, not
okay,
not even close. No.
Were there a lot of 400 hitters then?
They had their share.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one of these articles here. Just yeah, here it is. Josh Gibson batted .441, 1943 for the Homestead Grays. Hugh Duffy, .440, for the Boston Bean Eaters. How about that for a name? In 1894, Nat LaJoie, 426 for the Philadelphia A's in 1901. So I always thought that, Ted Williams with his 406 in 1943, I think it was, or 41,
41.
Was the top one, but obviously not.
Well, I would weigh in on this. First of all, Seam Heads, I think, is one of the great resources for Major League statistics. That's the first point. Second point is that, the Negro Leagues were forced to, by things that they could not control, to not play as many games as were played in the major leagues. So, to say that, a team only played 100 games, how can you count those statistics? Well, you can. I think this is a good move by Major League Baseball, and it's a move that should have taken place years ago.
Yeah.
And, Julian and I were talking a couple of days ago, and we talked about the fact that if Hank Aaron had hit more home runs when he played for the Birmingham Barons, he could conceivably have surpassed Barry Bonds. He didn't, but wouldn't that have been a little piece of irony?
Yeah, it would have been interesting.
So I think,
Done it
I totally get the sense of, how can you blend these statistics with people who played 154 games if they only played 100 games. But I think you can blend those stats, and I think it's a needed blending. And I think what Major League Baseball has done is a good thing.
Yeah. And maybe even if they didn't blend them, the fact is that there were so many players that were fantastic players back then. Just to have them recognized in the Hall of Fame is justification, whether the statistics get married together or not.
And one of the
Look
items
at
that was brought
the
up.
blending.
Okay, go
Just
ahead, Jack.
look at adding Satchel Page's wins
Yes.
to the
Right.
record books. There's no one disputes his level of performance as an athlete, but social and political circumstances deprived him of the opportunity to really be showcased to the whole country. I mean, you can argue statistics left and right because let's face it, we can look at baseball as it was played in different eras, and there's a lot of apples and oranges arguments that can go in there. I'd be interested in why 1920 is selected as their cutoff date. After having read that article about the Philadelphia Superbas in the Inquirer the other week, I don't know if anyone read that.
Yeah.
Excellent article. Periodically, the Inquirer does some really good job with some pieces of sports history that they probably don't get as much credit for because they're too busy griping about the Philadelphia Eagles or something. But
I know Frank Fitzpatrick does a lot of those articles.
yes, Frank Fitzpatrick in particular.
Frank Fitzpatrick is a Philadelphia gem.
Mhm.
When he stops writing, we're all going to realize that's a voice that we wish we could still have.
Right.
Oh, sure. These legendary sports writers, are very few of them left anymore, as the written media has taken a back seat, and even some of the great writers have taken the money and run to television.
Mhm.
I used to read Bill Lyon religiously
Oh, he was
for decades.
what a boss.
But no, I just wondered why 1920 is the magic date. Although when you look at some of the record books, some of these leagues didn't last very long.
Right.
And they ended up either going out of business or merging with another group, etc. So I'm comfortable with the effort to recognize these really great athletes. I think the folks that are doing the analysis have a really hard job because they're looking at kind of apples and oranges situations in a lot of instances.
They do. And it says in one of these articles that was written in December, back when Major League Baseball made the announcement, it talks about the years of some of these leagues. And like, for example, when you say it's 1920 and to 1948, well, the leagues are the Negro National League, which was 1920 to 1931. So that's where the 1920 comes in. Then they had the Eastern Colored League, which is part of this consortium, 1923 to 1928. The American Negro League was just 1 year, 1929. The East-West League was 1 year also, 1932. The Negro Southern League was 1932. And then just two other leagues, the Negro National League was 1933 and 1948. So that was obviously a prominent league that lasted 15 years. And the Negro American League, which was 1937 to 1948. So I guess that's where they get the parameters, because of the start of the Negro National League on the first go around in 1920, and then both the other leagues going ending in 1948.
Does anybody know if they played with exactly the same baseball?
It does say in those articles they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Part of the problem here is that before 1920, it was more a kind of, I don't want to say vagabond. It was more a kind of traveling. You would play
barnstorming.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the perfect word for it. Barnstorming. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more a barnstorming kind of baseball. And in point of fact, that barnstorming sense continues after the Negro Leagues die. And I would point out, there have been a couple of articles, and there was a recent interview with Milt Thompson. Milt Thompson's father played in this barnstorming circuit for years. And when Milt, and Milt is a friend of mine, and he's told me a lot of stories about this. That barnstorming sense continued for years after the Negro Leagues. And Milt talks about the fact that his father and his teammates would take a weekend, a Saturday, Sunday, and they would travel up into New England and up through Philadelphia, from Baltimore, and they would play games, and they would play, sometimes 3 games a day, and they would have, picnics between games, etc. But the players lived for that. And I think Major League Baseball, by designating 1920, said that, here's where the leagues began. Prior to that, it was barnstorming. And after the Negro Leagues folded, the barnstorming continued.
That makes sense.
Great explanation.
Okay.
And in the barnstorming that the Negro Leagues had was akin to the major leagues, when teams would break from spring training. In Florida, they would work their way back up north and play in various minor league towns.
Right.
Like I said, working their way back up north towards opening day. And that in itself was almost a version of barnstorming, but it gave those people in those small minor league towns, because my dad remembers that he was from Asheville, North Carolina. He remembers seeing a couple of major league games as part of this barnstorming spring training tour in the Asheville Stadium that still exists today.
My
my father-in-law was played ball back in the 1916, 17, 18 in that period. He ended up with the Phillies very shortly. Most of his time he spent as a manager, playing manager a lot for Portland, Maine, and in Seattle on the West Coast. But we had a team out in Parksburg, the Parksburg Ironworks team, which
Pico.
was made up of a lot of local people, like a lot of good baseball players from around the area. And on a Sunday, they'd play a triple headers because Philadelphia didn't play the majors didn't play on Sunday, and there might be 3 different teams would come out there. I mean, Ty Cobb played out there. You name them. It was a big thing. One of the things that always struck me when you talk about records, though, it's like any sport, that the equipment that they had then. I look at the glove that he used to play with. Well, heck, I don't know how he ever caught a ball with it, really. And today they have this big web, and they catch you see snowballs all the time. So, I think the hitters had it a little bit more advantage at that time too. So
Fields weren't as good either.
No.
And they didn't play. They really didn't play night baseball.
That's right.
When they played in major league ballparks, they were playing in the daytime, not at nighttime, because they didn't want to have to pay for the electricity. So they were playing the major league ballparks when the major league team was away.
They mentioned the ballpark that the Superbas played in. Left center field was 440 feet.
Oh my!
Right.
Yeah, those are the days you had some good inside the park home runs and triples. Triples is not something you see much of in today's game.
Well, most of us on the screen here are old enough to remember Crosley Field with the
Terrace.
slope.
Oh, yeah.
Or how far Forbes Field was.
Yes.
Or even dead center in Shive Park.
If you remember Forbes Field, I think, wasn't it like 475 to right center, and it was so deep that they put the batting cage was actually on the field.
Yeah, at one time, yeah.
Well, the Baker Bowl to right field was something like 247 feet, and they had that huge wall.
Kind of like the Polo Grounds was to left.
Yeah.
Or Fenway Park.
Well, yeah, I mean, Fenway, that's the classic example. But to go back to Bunny's point, not only did we have the Pico Ironworks in Chester County, we also had the Brandywine Baseball Club.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Brandywine Baseball Club, despite the fact that it was not affiliated with any major league club, they had all kinds of players that came through that club that eventually went on and played in the majors.
That's right.
Including Westchester's very own Bayard Bud Sharp. Bud Sharp grew up in Westchester. He was raised in Westchester. He married a Westchester woman, and he played for the Brandywine Baseball Club. He went on and played in the major leagues. He was mostly in the minor leagues, but Chester County has a rich history of professional baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can say that Chester County has a rich history in African-American baseball, but we have a rich history in baseball.
Well, not during the time period, but there's Andre Thornton from Phoenixville.
Yeah, don't leave Andre out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a pretty fair baseball player, 253 career home runs.
Yeah, was a pretty good football player too, Lou.
Really?
Excellent football player.
And his brother Billy, wasn't he slated to run against Bob Hayes in some track event?
Yeah, he was a multi-sport athlete. Actually ran in the Olympic trials at one time.
Wow.
And Andre
had to try out with a pro football team. Yeah, very multi-talented.
And Andre,
however,
he was the best.
Two brothers don't make a history.
Yeah.
For a county. Although Phoenixville, obviously, we should be proud of our athletes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was telling, I've mentioned this to Mike Pike and to Chuck Benz, but I found a couple of scorebooks that I used to score every game I went to in Hawaii, and they were a AAA farm club for the California Angels when we lived in Hawaii in 1970, 69, 70, and 71, and 72. And the Eugene Emeralds were the AAA club, and of course, Reading was the AA club.
Mm-hmm.
And teams would come to Hawaii, and they would, because of the length of the flight, they would play either 6 or 8 games against the Islanders. And I found a scorebook for the Eugene Emeralds where a game against Hawaii where Schmidt must have been in some kind of slump because he was batting 8th. And I think it was in the 5th inning of that game, and I'll have to show it to everybody sometime. In the 5th inning of that game, Andre Thornton pinch hit for Schmidt. So I can't imagine that Schmidt was ever pinch hit for much of his career, but it's interesting that our own Andre Thornton pinch hit for him when he was, in the organization.
Well,
So you just never know. Let me just use that as a quick segue. Some of you may be minor league baseball fans, but I was going to make you aware minor league baseball is going through tremendous change and honestly upheaval right now. Was it they got rid of 42 ball clubs? Chuck, was it? They got rid of 42 minor league teams, including Trenton, which is pretty sad because Trenton they've had a good history with the Red Sox and the Yankees. But the league that Reading is in used to be called the Eastern League. I'm not even sure what they're calling it anymore. But they're going to be playing a 120 game schedule.
Right.
And it's going to start May 4th and end on September 19th. Good thing about May 4th is that you'll miss all that basically horrendous weather in May and enjoy some of that good weather that you still have in September. But what's interesting is that when a team comes into town to Reading, or when Reading goes on a road trip, you're going to play the same team 6 times. So that's very reminiscent of what I saw in Hawaii when teams would come in for 6 to 8 days. And I can guarantee you that if there's some bad blood between some of these teams after 3 or 4 games, umpires are going to have their hands full in games, say 4, 5, and 6. Every Monday is going to be an off day. So they'll either have a 6-game homestand or a 12-game homestand. They'll have more 6-game homestands and 6-game road trips than they will 12-gamers. And then when you go to Lehigh Valley, they're going to start basically 4 weeks. Let me shut that phone off. They're going to start 4 weeks ahead of Reading. So they will play a schedule instead of 120 games, they're playing 142 games. So they start on April 6th and they also end on September 19th. However, they're playing more of a divisional alignment. And if you can imagine, they're going to be playing 142 games against only 5 ball clubs. So, for example, they'll play Syracuse 24 times, Worcester, which is now a Red Sox ball club, no more Pawtucket. They'll play Worcester 36 times, Buffalo 22 times, Scranton 36 times, and Rochester 24. So as I indicated before, if there's some bad blood going on with teams, especially with those teams that you're playing 36 times, I don't know who came up with that brain, with that.
You're going to have
but boy, it's going to be crazy.
Julian, are they going to have the same umpire crew for all 6 games?
Boy, I probably so, because this is as Chuck and Lou and Mike know, they're all a lot of these measures are cost-cutting measures for travel.
It's all based on making money.
Yep. And
They're not spending it.
they're not gonna have playoffs. It's just gonna be an entirely different way to watch minor league baseball.
Will there
And
be
it's been in
attendance?
the works.
I'm sorry.
What about attendance? Well, the Reading Phillies sent out their schedule. But they
Yes.
didn't send, and they're selling tickets, but it doesn't say how many people they're allowing into each park.
That's going to depend on the state they're in and what's going on. So
Right.
I don't think they have any idea yet what the numbers are going to be. But
is,
this whole thing that Julian was talking about has been in the works for years.
mhm.
It's just that this COVID was a good excuse to bring it in,
Mhm.
and it's not going away. So we lost a lot of teams. A lot of teams went under, and you know, this realignment, but it's been in plan for a long time, is a big cost cutter. So it's very well,
It's a shame.
it's been in the works.
It's a shame for the young players too, because it's a lot of lost opportunity.
Mhm.
It's a kick in the rear to all the fans too. It really is, especially the teams that are, you know, out in the boonies and they didn't have a lot going on, and now they're done. And they have many of them have relatively new stadiums and a lot of money invested, and they got nothing. It's a shame.
Like, for example, Trenton is going from being a AA club, 2 steps from the big leagues, to a team
Independent.
that's going to be composed of college ball players called the MLB Draft League. And that'll be very similar to the Cape Cod League, which has operated for
Ever.
over 50 years.
Hmm.
And it'll be a wooden bat league, which is subsidized, of course, by Major League Baseball. And it's going to have the teams they'll be playing, I think, are Williamsport and some of the other teams from the New York Penn League that is no longer in existence. It's as these folks have
It's a
said.
shame it's a shame for some of the smaller towns like Hagerstown and some of those where
Yeah.
towns depend from an economic development standpoint on the revenue for those teams and for the people coming out and so forth and so on. So it's a really kick in the head for small towns.
Yep.
And I think it goes even deeper than that. Because when you go back to the beginnings of baseball in this country, it was after the Civil War that baseball really took off. And it was 1869, when the Cincinnati team won all their games. But, at that time in the late 19th century, there was so much town ball. Every town had a team. And, these teams played one another throughout a region and in a state. And as the game became more professional, those numbers of small teams reduced. Here in Chester County, we have the Westchester Adult Baseball League. But that's one of the few leagues in the area. And so to lose these smaller minor league teams, we're losing a significant slice of American baseball history.
Yeah.
We're losing that sense of a town ball league. We're losing that sense of smaller independent teams. And it's all, dare I say it, in the name of greater profitability.
Mike, the Westchester Adult Baseball League, is that considered a semi-pro league?
I don't think so. No, I think it's strictly.
It's not like the Pendel League? Where
I don't think so. But Lou, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. The Pendel League,
If we had the estimable Tom Walsh here this evening,
Yes.
he would be able to answer that. But we would also be going to bed during his answer.
Julian?
Let me bring up another baseball situation that we've had in Chester County, and Chuck's been to this. I've been to it 1 year in Gettysburg. Chuck, you've been a number of years, right? Where they play the 1800 rules baseball.
Yeah.
And they have, what is it, like a 12 or 16 team tournament, Chuck, every summer, without COVID, in Gettysburg. And it's the rules that were adopted in like the 1860s. One of the interesting rules, I think, is that not only can you make an out via a line drive or a pop-up, but if you catch a grounder on one hop, it's considered an out without even throwing the ball to first base or anything.
Huh.
And
Just
there are
something about what
teams-
the field conditions must have been like in that era, Julian.
Well, out in Gettysburg, they're playing these on the
Grass.
the pastures, cut pastures, and it's fun to watch these games being played. They're being played by people anywhere from the early 20s, and some guys are in their 60s and even early 70s. And it's just a fun way to take in baseball and realize this is how it was played at one time.
They play one of those. They have a field out in Unionville that plays in that whole thing. But getting back to what you were talking about, Michael, about the each town had a ball game. When I was reading one of the old articles of my father-in-law, I guess whatever town, it might have been Westchester, but I don't think it was, but one of the local towns here, small towns, and they were playing down in Chadds Ford.
Yeah.
And it was a real big game, he said, and we had a huge crowd. There must have been 200 buggies there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the incredible thing. We forget about that. I collect vintage baseball cards and vintage postcards. And Bunny, what you've just said is so completely spot on.
Yep.
People would bring their buggies and line the outfield to watch the game. And that's just a notion that we can't even comprehend.
No.
If there was seating, it was very limited, and it would be, a fairly wealthy or successful club that would have it, but mostly women sat in those seats.
Yes.
And the majority of people lined the outfield.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you go back and do the research, some of which I've done, and look at the late 18th century, there would be balls hit to the outfield that the outfielder didn't know where it landed because there would be fans out there.
Yes.
They'd have to dig around and look for the ball. I mean,
you have a lot of inside the park home runs there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, when you look at the dead ball era, inside the park home runs were just off the charts.
Yeah.
And in fact, our friend Julian McCracken has a great statistic that speaks to this phenomenon, and it's the quadruple double. And Julian should be given a lot more credit than he's received. So Julian, explain it.
Quadruple double, and it was actually mentioned, not the term, but the derivation of it. It's when a player accumulates 10 or more doubles, 10 or more triples, 10 or more homers, or 10 or more stolen bases in a season. So quadruple, four, double means double digits, obviously. And Juan Samuel was a guest on WIP Saturday with Ray Dininger and Glenn Macnow. And it was, if you want to listen to the interview, it's I think Mikey found it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was about an hour long, and I had the pleasure of being involved with the Reading Phillies when Samuel played for us in '83, and I was also with the team he was on with us in Peninsula in the Carolina League the previous year in '82. And it was just a great interview by those two guys on Samuel. And they brought up to Sammy, and he wasn't really aware of it until they brought it up to him. And Samuel he's the only player in Major League history to have attained this quadruple double the first 4 years of his career. So, obviously it's indicative of power and speed. And he missed it for a fifth consecutive year at the start of his career by one triple. The Phillies have been fortunate in the last 30 to 40 years of having players who've done really well with this statistic. Bobby Abreu had it he did it in 2 consecutive years. Jimmy Rollins is tied for the most in a career with 5, and he missed out on a couple other chances by a triple or 2. Victorino had 3. Believe it or not, Mike Schmidt had it 1 year. Dick Allen at the beginning of his career had 3. So it's, as I said, power and speed are a great combination. And unfortunately, when you look at that statistic, since 2013, there have only been 4 players who've reached those numbers. So when you look at it, the number of home runs has gone up, the number of strikeouts has gone up at the same time, and you look at the number of triples, it's gone down just as much as the strikeouts and home runs have gone up.
What do you think Juan Samuel's launch angle was?
Oh God, there's one thing I hate. I can't listen to a game when they talk about that garbage. It's just changed. It's changed the way all these young people play baseball, and it's just not the right way to. Not the right. I don't know what some of you think about it, but I can't stand when they talk about this launch angle garbage and velocity off the bat. I mean, see the ball, hit the ball, and run.
Right.
And it used to be fun. I still think the most exciting play in baseball today is a triple.
Triple. Yeah.
This is triple. Absolutely.
Or the inside the park home run.
Yeah, I
That's
was
the
going
other
to inside the park home run, probably a little bit more than
A
that.
little bit
Well,
more.
I like the throw from deep right field to third base too.
Yes.
Secretary
Yeah.
play,
Defensively.
9 to 5.
Or
I
you know,
love
when
it.
you have a hit and run and the guy's going from first to third, and a guy like Clemente or Al Kaline or Hank Aaron would just throw a seed to third base to nail the guy in one hop.
Yeah.
Glenn Wilson used to do that too.
Yes.
He was the most fun to do that. Yeah.
Well, Julian, do you think the cumulative effect of this restructuring of leagues, reducing the number of teams, is going to speed guys to the major leagues faster? And the end result will be more deterioration in the quality of play.
I
That's
agree. with you.
that's what it sounds like to me.
I agree with you, Jack. I honestly think that what the major leagues want to eventually get to is just total complex baseball. And what I mean by complex baseball, that all the Phillies players would play out of Clearwater, and you'd play all the other teams that are headquartered in Florida for spring training. And you see the same thing in Arizona. I think they want to have so much control over these players. My roommate from Ohio State has been in baseball since we graduated there in '78, and he's been with the Columbus Clippers basically that entire time. And that's a AAA club for Cleveland. And he indicated that the amount of paperwork and the things that the clubs are going to have to do to adhere to what the major leagues want, everything from they're keeping track of the distance between their city and the next city they go to, and just ramifications and the type of food that you have available for them in the clubhouse, the game times. They're trying to stipulate all the game times. They're just literally taking away minor league baseball as we've all known it. And as I expressed, complex baseball is going to be the way that I think some of these major league teams are going to go, because they can control everything, literally everything, and have less cost. And one of the beauties of playing in a minor league situation is you play in different types of weather, you play different types of lighting, you play in different size fields. I mean, obviously everything's always 90 feet between bases, but different dimensions. You get to play in front of live people. That's part of the maturation process for a player.
Well, if you only play the same team 4 or 5 times for the entire season, you may have some hostile fans too. Besides bad blood between teams.
That's going to be fun to see what happens, when Lehigh Valley ends up playing with Scranton and Worcester 36 times. I mean, it's a lot when a major league team, like when the Phillies would play the Atlanta Braves 19 times in a year, that's way too much.
To change the subject, did anybody see the power rankings came out today? First power rankings for whatever they mean.
Yeah.
Where do they have the Phillies?
Phillies were 18th.
And how many wins do they project?
They have
80, 81?
Dodgers, I wrote it down. Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, Braves, and Mets were the top 5. And then I'm going to put this up on the screen. If I can, here it is. Here's 6 through 30 for everybody to see.
Wow.
And the Phillies were 18th. That the Cubs and Angels were ahead of them surprised me a bit.
I'm surprised the Marlins are that low.
Yeah, I am.
Going to be a rough year in Pittsburgh, that's for sure.
It's always
Yeah,
a rough year in Pittsburgh.
I think the Angels, that I can understand that, but not the Cubs.
So if you folks are putting together the Phillies like Dave Dombrowski is, are you happy with what he's put together with the club so far, or given they've already kind of blown their budget with what they've done?
I'll take this down now. We get out of this.
With the contracts that they handed out to Muto and Gregorius, they don't have a whole lot of money to add somebody else of stature unless they want to go over the luxury cap.
I think for the amount of money they spent, they picked up some decent arms.
Yes,
They're certainly better than they had last year.
and they created some good depth. I feel
Exactly. Yeah. So
Well, they thought they were doing that when they got the 2 guys from Boston.
Boston.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
That
were
was a
those guys
disaster.
train wrecks or what?
They were that too.
yeah, but
Dave,
on the plus side, they got rid of Pavetta. So
It's interesting to see some of these guys that the Phillies unloaded signing with other teams. Arrieta signed for $6 million back with the Cubs.
He'll be the MVP.
well, do you think the Phillies would have brought him back for $6 million?
Oh
No.
God,
I,
No, I don't think so either.
I think
that guy should be paying them back money.
Yeah.
I think that ship sailed.
Yeah, that train had left the station and he's done.
Chuck, what were you gonna say?
Can someone tell me why the heck Hector Neris is still on the team? I can't take it anymore.
And Ranger
I can't
Suarez.
take it anymore.
Or Vince Velasquez, too.
Oh, Vince.
I think they have pictures of somebody.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Hector, I saw him on the 40-man roster and I couldn't
Ugh.
believe it. Because the number 2 thing on my list of the improvements that the Phillies could do is improve their bullpen. And yeah, they have brought in a lot of arms, but to still have like hand grenades like Hector Neris and Ranger Suarez in there, I mean, how much have they really improved it if those guys are still on the club?
I guarantee you Hector Neris is the closer day one, and I'm going to be sick. I can't
Wow.
take it again.
God bless us all.
He will be.
You
No,
guys are
I don't think he
brutal.
will be. I don't think he will be. I think they're banking on him to give them, like be a setup guy. He might be okay as a setup guy. He's not a closer.
Aren't they looking for Archie Bradley to be a?
Yeah, Archie Bradley's your closer.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'll be the
Yeah,
likely.
He'll be the closer.
he's a good aggressive kid. He'll
Yeah.
do well.
I mean, I think it's all about the competition. The problem with last year was that they had all these young arms. And then when they went to try and get veteran arms, they got some duds. I mean, I think Dombrowski's done a smart thing. He's
Yeah.
brought in veteran people. And, he's done this in the past.
That
They
shows you
have to be better. The guys he brought in have to be better than the guys they had last
I
year.
completely agree with you, Charlie.
I think any 5 of us would be better than the guys they brought in last year.
Yeah, well, I can't throw anymore, but
Well,
That's my point.
And I heard-
Velasquez ends one of the five guys in the starting rotation.
He will
I
not
don't
be
know
a
about
starter.
that.
no, I
He
don't
won't be
think
a
so.
starter.
And I think one of the things that Ray and Glenn brought up during their show this weekend was the fact that the Phillies starting rotation actually was the best ERA in the National League for starters.
Yes, it was. The
Yeah, it
starting
was.
pitcher was
So
the
they had the
best.
starters, they just imploded as soon as they gave the ball to somebody else.
Yeah. Their starting pitcher was first in the National League, and their relief pitching was 13th in the National League.
Right.
So you can see you get maybe 5 or 6 innings out of your starter, and then it's like, hold on to your hat, you know?
Gosh,
Well,
don't all.
What was
have
that game where they had an 11-run lead
And they blew it.
and they blew it? I mean, I was sitting on my deck listening to that game,
And
I-
and I just
I think the low
thank God I
point,
only had to walk in the house.
the low point to me was the doubleheader with Toronto, where they had a good lead in both games
Both games, yeah.
and blew both of them.
What do you guys think about the pitchers? You know, it's considered a good start if they go 5 innings rather than say 7.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I have a problem with that stat.
it
It's a
makes you-
different
it makes you
world,
miss-
Lou.
It makes
It's
you
a
miss
different
complete
world.
games.
You know?
You know, they
Is
have
it-
so much money invested in the starting pitching. That's what it really is. They're afraid of hurting arms. It's
Right.
silly.
I agree.
Years ago, though, guys used to go Don Newcomb and Robin Roberts and people
Warren
like
Spahn. Yeah,
they'd go
Yeah.
nine innings for like
10, 11 innings.
Pitch and pitch.
Carlton had 30 complete games in his big year, you know?
and they're supposed to have better conditioning and things like that. I don't know.
Well,
I
Chuck
guess the
and I
Phillies
were
need to
going
bring
over,
back Gus Heffling.
Chuck and I were going over the 1968 World Series between the Cardinals and the Tigers.
Mhm.
And I looked it up, and I didn't realize how good Lolich was in that series, but both Bob Gibson and Lolich pitched 3 complete games each. Their ERAs matched each other in that series, 1.67. And Lolich won Game 7 on 2 days rest after he had pitched 9 innings, 2 days previous.
And that's when the Tigers had the guy who had 31 wins.
Yeah,
Right.
Denny McLean.
Denny
Who
McLean.
didn't do much in the
Lolich
World
was the one
Series,
who
yeah.
who outshone him in that World Series, and
Yeah.
it just makes you. I know the mound was a little bit higher, and God knows how much that had to do with it, but whatever happened to the art of the complete game, it went by the wayside after Greg Maddux, basically.
Well, here I'm looking at the stats for Grover Cleveland,
Jesus.
Old Pete Alexander.
Don't
In
look at
19
Christy
in
Mountain, please.
1915, when the Phillies were in the World Series,
40-some.
Pete Alexander was 28. He had a 31-10 season. His ERA was 1.22. He threw 36 complete games. He threw 376 innings, and he had 241 strikeouts. And oh, that Pete, he had 64 bases on balls. Those are incredible numbers.
Yeah, well, we're
Just
back to apples and
incredible.
oranges again, guys.
That's true.
And I mean, the next year he was just as good. And I mean, his ERA was 1.55 instead of 1.22. But I mean,
He had an off
he
year.
put together 3 consecutive 30-win
Game
seasons.
right.
Well, let's get
1915
him
and
for the Phillies
1917.
team, okay? I'm sure we can find a room for him on the roster, okay? We can get, Old Pete at his prime, let's get him in there.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, those old time pitchers though, what's changed is all these pitchers want to throw gas. The
Right.
old time pitchers used to save the fastball for like the put away pitch, or they would think about Robin Roberts. Robin Roberts, that he didn't throw 95 miles an hour every time he threw a fastball. And they knew how to pitch, how to set people up. I mean, that's what's changed. They just want to get 5 innings of them throwing fast as they can, throw in some breaking balls and a changeup or something, and then after 5 innings, sit them down because they've got millions of dollars invested in them.
Right.
That's what's changed. I
That's
think.
the philosophy. Throw as
Yeah.
hard as you can for as long
Play
as
for a
you
better
As you
team.
can.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that, they've got they had better catches. They had more intelligent catches. You take a guy like Real Muto, guys want to throw to him
Mhm.
because he's great at framing pitches and he understands what to throw. That's not true with a lot of catchers today.
So many catchers are consumed with hitting instead of
Hitting.
catching.
Exactly.
He was the number one thing on my list was to sign Realmuto.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was everybody's list.
The Phillies would be dead in the water right now if they
Oh,
hadn't
yeah.
signed him, both in the clubhouse, on the field, and in the stands.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, he is like the glue that's holding that team together right now.
Right.
The second thing was to improve the bullpen, like we talked about. And the third thing was to improve the outfield offensive production. Their center field and left fielders were the worst in the National League in terms of offense. And I think McCutchen just doesn't have it anymore. Hazley, Quinn in center field, are they really major league? They're like 4A hitters. So I think they have to do something there. It may be too late now, but if they could get somebody in there to improve one of those two or both of those positions, I think you'd be ahead of the game. If they can play the outfield, even better. You know,
Odubel.
you
Odubel.
think they're really going to give him a chance?
I do.
I do. I
I
do.
do too.
Yeah.
Because
I think they're desperate and they're on the hook for his $10 million.
yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. So I mean, he would be an upgrade over Hazley or Quinn, in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't know whether he can still go get them like he could, but
Plus,
you know,
if they
he'd
play
probably
in an
be an
empty
improvement in
stadium,
that
nobody will be
regard.
there to
too.
boo him.
But
Yeah,
McCutchen, my wife loves McCutchen. I tell her, honey, he's dead. I mean, he's just not a major leaguer anymore.
Let's see if Victorino can come back.
Get the flying. She is the vice president of the Shane Victorino fan club.
Is that right?
Shane's Dames. I'm telling you.
Shane's name.
She would love to see Shane Victorino come back.
Who is this?
The Flying Hawaiian.
My wife is.
Oh,
the
your
vice
wife.
president.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta let you guys know, so my
look on.
youngest daughter moved to Maui. Shane Victorino's father is the mayor of Maui in
Is that
Hawaii.
right? Yeah, he's legendary over there.
Alec Bowen at third base.
See, to me, he's an untouchable.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 7 on my list was don't mess with Bohm, Nola, Wheeler, and JT. Put him in a position as a third baseman. If that's where you're going to play him, put him there, pencil him in at 5 or 6, and say, Alec, it's yours.
Do you think he has the opportunity or the potential to be another Mike Schmidt?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
He
I
has
think
the potential to be the next Alec Bohm, and I think that will be good enough.
he'll hit for average. He won't hit all those home runs.
He's Scott Rowland type, but not Schmitty.
Well, I don't think he'll field like that.
World Series with Pedro Feliz. They went to the World Series with Dave Hollins. You get a halfway decent, above average third baseman, and I think he's your guy. You put him there and say, it's yours, Alec, go for it. So that was number 7 on my list. Don't mess with Bohm and those other guys.
Good idea. Let him play.
Yeah.
I think
Guys,
they also
I
have
think,
to some way improve the team defense because they were like horrible on defense. Now you say, well, their fielding average was right in line. It was right in the middle of the league, but their ability to stop runs from scoring was the worst, I think. Yeah, so they just have to improve their overall team defense. And I don't know that Segura is your shortstop. Is he really or
He's going to be your
Gregorius?
second baseman.
He'll be second.
Gregorius is your shortstop.
Yeah, I don't know if these guys have the range. And what really came to mind when I saw that stat about how bad their defense was all the shifting that the Phillies did.
Yeah.
But they're not alone.
If
Yeah,
you
the
remember
shift
last
off the
year,
outlook.
Arrieta, and one reason why he's not with the team is that he used to criticize all the shifting that was done. And I think the Phillies played their way out of, or played their way into big innings for the other team because of all the shifting. And it's like, there's a reason why the shortstop plays there, and there's a reason why the second baseman plays there. you start moving these guys around and it's like, I'm not a fan of that. So, but some way they have to improve their overall team defense.
You think Kingery has a future with the team, or you think?
Number 5 on my list is what to do with Kingery.
I think they're gonna,
What's your answer?
He's a mystery to me. He tore through the minor leagues and he tore through the NCAA in college. And then when he got to the pros, it just, is it the shifting around they did for him, or you just think he
Well,
I think
Lou-
it's the contract.
It's
Lou,
hard
last
to
contract, they
year-
moved
that
him up.
all that
Well,
money in your pocket.
Yeah, but last year may not be fair to him, though. I mean, he's the one that had a serious case of the COVID-19.
Correct. I agree.
Right before the limited season started.
I agree.
I read enough now about how long-term debilitating that can be with some people.
So do you keep them
And
around?
that may have made last year a lost year for him. So I'm not so sure we should give him another year to judge him. But I think moving him around doesn't help Lou.
I saw
He is on every infield position and in some of the outfield positions on their depth chart. You look at him, and he's like in 4 or 5 different positions.
If he could
somewhere.
hit, he'd be DJ LeMahieu like the Yankees.
Yeah, you're right.
He plays a different position every night, that guy.
Give him
Yeah.
time.
But he hits
he's still young.
Yeah, he's got time.
And the next thing on my list is, all I wrote was Hoskins with a question mark.
Ugh.
I
He
think
got
he'll be
cleared
fine.
today.
I think he's
He
rated.
got medically cleared today for full participation in spring.
He was, yeah.
Okay, but my question is, which Hoskins are you going to get?
you'll
The
find
first
out
half
this
of
year.
2019 or the second half of 2019?
Yeah.
Which Hoskins are you going to get?
Yeah.
The good one.
I think this year is a big year for him.
Right.
Just to go back to the Kingery thing for a moment,
Okay.
Yoan Moncada for the White Sox is one of the great young players in the league. He had COVID last year. And if you look at his stats, and I looked at them recently, at his stats from 2020 versus 2019 and before, he was nowhere near what he had done previously. And I really think that the COVID infection for the players who've experienced it, like a Kingery, takes a huge toll. And it's a toll that we don't still understand.
I agree.
It's
I
funny
see.
you mentioned Moncada. I saw one White Sox game last year, and he ripped the cover off the ball every time he came up. And it was like,
Yeah, well, that was probably the only game.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that one game may have sapped his energy for a week.
Well, that's true. I mean, he is a dynamic ball player. And by the way, watch the White Sox this year.
Yeah, they'll be good.
They're
I
going to
agree with
really
you.
be good.
Who got Arenado? The
Cardinals.
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 I think they might be a team to watch because I think they've improved their team a lot.
Yeah.
Well, look at the corners they got, him and Goldschmidt. Not
Yeah.
too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Number eight was if I was the general manager, I would hope for a little luck.
I think a little more than a little.
Now, luckily that's number 8, it's not number 1, but number 8 is hope for a little luck, because if you remember the 93 team, they got off to a good start, but then they ran into a real good stretch of good luck, and that just launched them the rest of the season. They were never out of first place. So I think a team needs a little bit of luck.
They need
A
help.
little bit of a confidence builder to say that, hey, we can play in this league. We can win this league.
Sure.
All good teams have that confidence. And right now, the Phillies, I don't think have it.
And the Phillies this year don't have a Darren Dalton, who's like rules the
Right.
clubhouse.
Right. Or a John Kruk, or who was the guy from Texas? Incaviglia.
Inconvenient. And they don't have jars of
clubhouse.
they don't have jars of little green pills.
True. They don't have Lenny Dykstra, Lenny Dykstra would fit well on this team, right? Center fielder, offensive
Field,
production,
yeah.
leadoff hitter. He'd fit right in on this team. And my last thing, number 9, was fans in the stands.
Oh yeah.
I would hope, because
we need to be back.
I think the fans in Philadelphia, when the Phillies are playing well, the fans are a positive effect
Oh, sure.
on the Phillies and an overall negative effect on the visiting teams. Teams hate coming here to Philadelphia when their bullpen is berated from the time they walk out there to the time they go out on the mound, you know? So I think if I was a general manager, I'd want fans in the stands, even if we're at 25 or 30% capacity, because you know they're going to be loud, you know they're going to be noisy, and you know they're going to be offensive to the other side. So,
Well, there's a lot to be excited about this. So I think the fans will have a problem showing up.
right.
Yeah.
Except if you can't buy a ticket, you still can't buy single game tickets right now because they don't know what the situation is going to be.
Yeah.
So,
Nobody-
Charlie, I would just say, following up on the fans in the stand, it's why I love West Ham in the Premier League. They're just like Philadelphia.
Michael, have you been to the new West Ham Stadium?
No, I haven't. But my now deceased son-in-law grew up in the East End of London, and he took my daughter there for a couple of games.
To the old one or the new one?
Both.
The old one, it was like playing at Connie Mack Stadium.
Yeah.
It was tight. You got 35,000 people in there, tight to the field, and probably 99% of those people walked to the stadium.
Exactly.
You know, now a couple of years ago, they moved to that Olympic Stadium. It holds 60,000 people. And it was like the feeling you got when you went into the vet, you know, this big, huge place, you know, and I just didn't get it. I didn't like the new West Ham place. The old one was a dream. This one is not so much. I'm a big soccer fan myself.
Good for you. Yeah, I bought my son-in-law. He was quite a bit older than our daughter, but I bought him in an auction a sign from the old stadium that said something like, no bottles, swearing, etc., allowed beyond this point.
Yeah.
And he loved it.
Yeah.
My daughter hated it.
Come on, you Hammers.
Yeah. And he put it up on the bathroom door in their downstairs bathroom of their old house.
Good for him.
Yeah. And every time he went in there to take a whiz, he saw it. And it took him back to the East End. But my daughter.
We are far afield now.
I lived on Green Street in Philadelphia, and Upton Park was right on Green Street in London. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mark, we're losing it.
Nobody's brought up Bryce Harper. Do you think he's earned his money so far?
No.
No. I think he's been a solid player, but not at the money they're paying him.
Yeah.
The right
I would much
fielder,
rather have Acuna.
the right fielder for the Phillies last year, and mostly it was Harper, was 5th in the National League in offensive production.
Yeah.
So I guess his salary should put him in the elite status, and right now he's just below that. So no, he hasn't earned all $23 million. You know, maybe he's earned $18 million, but you know.
Manny Machado ranked even lower than that.
Did he?
Yes, he
Yeah.
did.
I think you're right.
I just saw that stat today. I don't remember what exactly, but he ranked
But-
lower.
Fellas, don't forget, July 1st is Barry Bonds Day.
Yeah, what state?
Barry Bonds Day is when he gets 1.2 million from the Mets, which he will continue.
Bobby Bonilla.
Or I'm sorry, I said Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
I meant Bobby Bonilla.
Right.
Bobby Bonilla Day.
He starts getting that, and he gets that for the rest of his life. Right?
getting that.
He's been getting it.
Yeah,
He's been getting it for 10 years.
yeah.
Why?
And
That was part of his
Contract they gave him.
that was the Mets deferred something like 5.9 million of his salary.
Huh.
And it wouldn't begin until this is what something like 2010. And Bonilla had great advisors and they said, take this deal. And so he will get, for something like 26 years, $1.2 million every July 1st.
That's a
And it's
hell of a-
become known as Bobby Bonilla Day in the major leagues.
All that money put together is 1 year of Mike Trout. So, you know.
Well, yeah.
They're all overpaid grossly.
But thank you, Julian, for clarifying. It's not Barry Bonds, it's Bobby Bonilla.
Right.
Because they were teammates, with the Pirates.
Yeah, when Bonds was skinny.
Yeah, when Bonds was skinny.
Before he went to a size 8.5 hat. So
Right. Gosh, what caused that?
well, we appreciate
What did you
everybody.
guys- The
coming
last
on
time we
board.
were together, we were talking about the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
What did you guys think of the nobody getting in the Hall of Fame this
I
time?
thought it was appropriate.
So did I.
There's not one person who deserved to be in there this year.
No. And the fact that Scott Rowland is in the conversation just boggles my mind.
Did Bobby Abreu get votes too,
He got some votes, but not enough.
And Kurt
But
Schilling
not
was
enough.
whining about not getting in,
The guy who should be in, and he'll go in this year when that doggone committee meets in person instead of Zoom, is the person whose jersey is behind me, Mr. I don't like Dick Allen. I don't like the name Dick Allen. I still call him Ricky. But he should go in.
I
And
agree.
another gentleman who should go in along with him is Minnie Minoso.
Yep, I agree.
Mhm.
We talked about this the last time, about
Yeah.
guys who are in the Hall of Fame that maybe don't exactly belong in the Hall of Fame. And I realized that a lot of guys I'm thinking about played in Chicago. So maybe what they should do is have the Chicago closet and have all the guys from Chicago. Leave Bernie Banks out there, he's fine, he's in the main hall. But all these other guys, they go in this closet. So when you want to go in and see Nellie Fox, so you go, oh, you got to go to the closet over there,
Aparicio.
Aparicio, there's another one,
See, I remember him more for Baltimore than I do for Chicago.
I remember.
No.
I remember that double play combination, yeah.
I grew up in Chicago. It was Louis.
Michael, why
Gotta
don't
go,
you,
gang. Thanks. This is a lot of fun. Do it again.
Okay.
Well, thank you everybody
Great,
for
we will.
attending. Lou, do you have any parting words? We can do this again in a few months if Mark wants us to, and
Oh, sure.
we'll see.
no, I just had a question for Michael. Why do you think that Scott Rowland shouldn't be in the conversation?
I think Scott Rowland had a terrific career. When I look at Scott Rowland's numbers against the other third basemen who are in the Hall of Fame, I just don't see him having those numbers.
and
He was a very solid third baseman.
and there aren't that many third basemen in the Hall of Fame.
And
compared
there
to
aren't
the
that
other
many third
positions.
basemen, no.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
it's for that reason, Lou.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for participating. And
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. Mark, do it again.
Oh, definitely.
Now,
So-
let's do it about halfway through the season when
Okay.
Let's
whether
talk about the
Phillies are-
All-Star team.
Yeah, let's see if any Phillies made the All-Star team and if they still have any pitching and if they still need a bullpen, and we'll see how good
I'm
Charles.
keeping my
Charles,
list of
list came to fruition.
improvements I wanted. And we'll see how they rank, okay?
So everybody, if you play fantasy baseball, have a good start to your year.
But and the other thing I would add is, Mark, have a gathering based on one of the great sports events in Chester County, and that is equestrian, and have Bunny Meister lead it.
There you go.
Okay.
You have a
I
chance.
mean,
to tell us all about it.
equestrian sports in Chester County are central,
Hmm.
and Bunny knows everybody.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, be safe, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
be safe. Good to
Appreciate
see
it.
y'all.
Good night now.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.